Welcome back and thank you for staying with Newsline. Now, of course, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence were marked from yesterday all the way to 10th of December. And of course, we've been seeing a worrying trend. As latest reports from the National Police Service indicate that 97 women were murdered in the last 3 months. Not forgetting what we're getting from the Gender Violence Recovery Center, Nairobi Women, which is saying they're recording at least 4,000 cases of gender-based violence cases every year, which is a worrying trend. And that's a conversation we want to have this particular moment. And joining me for the conversation next to me is Senator Tabitha Ntinda. I hope I pronounced it right? Yes. Okay. And of course, Alberta Wambua, who is the Executive Director at the Gender Violence Recovery Center. Thank you so much, ladies, for making time. Alberta, I'll start with you because you work with these, victims. Talk to us about this grim reality that we are facing on the ground.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you for having me on the show. So yes, we support survivors of gender-based violence and provide medical treatment and psychosocial support for them. How bad it is, it's bad for every survivor who's abused. 90% of the cases are women and girls. The youngest survivor of sexual violence at the Gender Violence Recovery Center was a 3-year-old baby. The oldest was a 105-year-old woman. About 10% of the cases, again, would be male. And all the survivors would suffer all forms of gender-based violence. Of course, the highest being at about 76% would be survivors of sexual assault. And over 68% of the alleged perpetrators would be known to the survivor and mentioned. And then another percentage of about 20 or so would be known but not mentioned. So it's only a small percentage of survivors that are not known or familiar to survivors of gender-based violence.
Yeah.
It is bad. Biggest, of course, is the psychological trauma, the lost opportunities, but also the physical injuries. I've seen young girls who've lost their uteruses. I've seen women and men who've lost their limbs. I've seen men who've lost their private part. So it's really severe, and this cuts across.
Okay, Senator, coming to you, I mean, a 3-year-old baby, 105.
Actually, 3-day-old.
3-day-old baby.
Yes, sexual violence.
Well, that says a lot about where we are as a country. From where you see it and as a leader, where do you think we're missing? What is the gap that we're missing as a country? Clearly there's something wrong.
First of all, thank you for having us on the show. And at the same time, to wish Madam Florence, who's currently at Nakuru, one of the Nakuru hospitals, quick recovery. This is the recent incidents that we currently have. Despite that, it's a very sad state to be in, not knowing myself, yourself, not knowing tomorrow what might happen, because we realize currently these issues, as my sisters mentioned, they are from our loved ones, from people that we basically know. Has the government done what that needs to be done? Recently, during the presidential address, the president was able to speak out on the issue of femicide, and even before that, there was a meeting with the women leaders as far as this matter is concerned, because we pronounced ourselves and said, let's pronounce femicide, as a national disaster that we have currently in our country. And yes, even the president acknowledges that yes, there's a problem. And so what has been done currently, he has been able to at least approve that there will be a task force that is going to be able to look into further into these issues. Where is the gap? And we are happy that there are going to be gender GBV desks at the mashinani level, at the county level, down there, whereby victims can be able to have a space that they can be able to report these matters without feeling intimidated, because currently the desks are within the police agencies. And at times when you approach and state that there's victimization, there's gender-based, the first perception is it's a domestic issue, just go and sort. But now where we are, it's escalated, and so the miss and the gap is within the agencies. the police agencies, they should tighten this desk. This desk should be able to ensure that the victims are brought to book finally. Because the moment we allow families to have what we call mediation, tribunals among themselves, yet, as you say, a 3-year-old, for Christ's sake, a 3-year-old, what discussion do you want to have? A 3-day-old, what discussion do you want to have?
Yeah.
These are the people that needs to set an example to the society, you know. And you say in Kenya, you are innocent until proven guilty. There's a process. Looking at the recent case, the one we have currently for Madam Florence, it's so sad because even when that matter came to light the next day, this culprit, Elias, was not arrested. On the same day, he had to present himself to the station, and then he's present himself with a lawyer. And then within a few hours, there's a cash bail.
Yeah.
And right now, as we speak, Florence is receiving treatment. She's still in pain, and yet the man, you know, is awaiting the court process. I mean, the corruption issue still, there's an indication that there's a loophole. Because he should have been actually arrested and as fast, at least been in those cells before even that process takes place. But you see, apparently, that is our law, whereby you are entitled to have a representative, that is a lawyer, and you are entitled to have a cash bail. So that is a sad part.
Okay.
Despite that these incidences have taken place, that is a sad part. But are the systems in place? The systems are in place. It's the people who are supposed to implement the system
that is the problem.
That's where the problem is. But the system is already there.
Okay.
Yes.
And Albata, even as we continue working towards, implementing those policies and ensuring that the systematic challenges are actually addressed and they work, let's go back to society. What could be the root cause? Because that's the question everyone is asking right now.
Yeah.
What is happening? Perhaps, do you know?
I could contribute based on the discussions that we've had across the country, different players. So one, it's the patriarchal structures that we have as a society. Of course, then fits into the system, who gets education, to what extent, and a lot of that, and the privileges around the same. We also have social norms and cultural norms, that are harmful. Some of them, they're harmful. Some cultural and social norms are not right. So I'll give you an example of femicide. There are communities in Kenya where they would kill an old woman, not just one community, a couple of communities I know, they'll kill an old woman saying that she's a witch, that's femicide. And they're contributing factors, of course, to this, or there are social disruptions and all that. But a lot of conversations then I've had also with men sharing is the issue of, they say, women empowerment. That, the women are so empowered, we don't know how to deal with them. Someone actually an agency, a security agency, said, akikula fair tutamaliza, ukisomesha mtu na sipo, and it's not about where they are. We all come from these, societies and the communities. So the issue would be, in my opinion, and just thinking through about it again, is not having a gender. We have to have conversation as addressing different genders. So yes, together, but also separately, so that it's not just focusing on the women or focusing on the boy child, and not having these platforms, which some of them are where it's fighting a woman, or fighting men, or seem to look like we're fighting both genders. No, it's about a football team with equal players, 11-11. So it's those discussions, right from how we socialize our children. Are we providing those equitable, equal spaces for growth, for socialization, for everything, and also having a society. But also appreciating that we're also different, as men, as women, as male and female, and all that. So as we have programming, for example, for women, that's sikushindana, but also having a balance, in terms of knowledge, attitudes, and addressing those social norms that are not right. Someone actually told me it's a hatred for women, it's a backlash. That was even a different conversation altogether. And listening and reading through people from different communities, or is it societies, I learned that femicide was there 100 of years back. in a certain community. And someone actually told me, what you're going through in Kenya, we had it in our country like 100 years ago.
Okay.
So then it's again, so how do we address it? How then do we have proper research to understand the underlying issues? How do we have proper programming, for example, and addressing the individual, needs, and how do we create awareness to these individual persons? How do we create awareness to that society? And I'll give you an example. You can have a system, but if it's not responsive, people will not report. If, for example, the violence it's how I'm socialized, it's culturally entrenched, I'll not even realize. I've met people who don't even realize they're being abused. So they don't think even they're being abused. If, for example, the community, discriminates and stigmatizes, they're not going to report.
Because it's normal to them.
Because it's normal, or you're going to be victim blamed, the victim blaming and all that. And even for the case of Florence, there's a lot of bitter feminists, and all that after the CCTV footage came out.
Yeah.
So it's not about justifying violence. Nothing justifies violence. Totally.
Okay. Senator, coming to you, I mean, we've talked about men and the fact that they're suffering in silence. Men can equally be treated as victims and equally be part of the solution. But what are we doing as a government to ensure that we rope them in even as we continue fighting gender-based violence?
Looking at polycare, it's broad. Even as far as the psychological aspect of it, the counseling aspect of it, and cases of mental health issues have really been increasing each and every day. What is bringing about this? Times have changed. There's lesser communication. Guess there's lesser time, because we are so much geared and focused into the responsibilities and work, and we forget ourselves. We forget that we are also human. Nobody is perfect, but we are not giving ourselves time to be able to iron out and air our issues. Women have been perceived to, there's this notion that we shout, we scream, we talk, but apparently it is healthy for us. It is healthy for us as women because it is in that moment of talking. This is that moment of, as much as I'm shouting, but I'm bringing it out. I'm speaking myself out. All I need is for you to be able to listen to me. But you see, with the boy child and the men culture, apparently for them, they hold things unto themselves. They don't speak out. So the moment that one thing escalates and becomes something else, they vent out with violence. They are more masculine, such that you can imagine that masculinity increasing and now coming out, and coming out through the mode of violence. Do we have to get there? Where is the problem? And like long ago, those were not the, it never used to be like that. I think because currently there's so much in terms of responsibility, and the times have just changed. Even the digital aspect of it with the technology, we are so much engaging better part of our time with the gadgets that we have. We're believing in her content, his theory, his thinking. We forget that the people that we are together as a family, and this goes not only to the loved ones in terms of a spouse or someone you're dating, it goes to even the brother, because you're looking at the male as the brother, husband, uncle. When Alberto talked about the three-year-old,
yes,
and 3 days old, I keep on saying 3 years, the 3 days old, because I'm not trying to imagine.
Yeah.
But the 3 days old, definitely the person who probably did that is someone who's known to this particular innocent kid. I was watching a content, I think last week, and this lady just realized the husband has been molesting his their 2 daughters. And it's so traumatizing. Sometimes you don't even know where to start.
Yes.
Because the last thing you can imagine is someone that you had entrusted. So it's been brought about by just that total detachment. And you look at families today, because of the element of Christianity in terms of, if you're in a marriage, then you should not move out. As a woman, you should be there. You should protect
Persevere.
You should persevere.
Yeah.
You should just, yet it becomes difficult. And so at times people just live in their old world, in their own worlds, and life just goes on and just moves on. But the moment it will burst, the bubble will burst, then that is when we start seeing these issues. And then the community starts saying, no, but they used to be okay. We saw that they were fine, but there was total shutdown.
Okay.
That total shutdown is where we are having the problem. And because that shutdown has been replaced by our systems, our digital guide. That's how we are consoling ourselves. There's a problem.
Okay.
Mental health issues need to be addressed. Our men need to try and find spaces to be able to air their issues, to be able to communicate. Because most of them, you see, it's very hard, with all due respect, to find a woman really putting down a man. Men are masculine. They have the muscle. It's quite very hard. And it's hard also for us as women to physically fight men. It's just rare. So you find that because they they are able to overpower us, then this is the situations we find ourselves. But on the other hand, apart from these people who have known each other, they've related, and this now happens. Case example, the recent issue of, for example, Florence. But we've also had our young girls meeting with people maybe in these Airbnbs, and that's why we, as leaders, we're even proposing that the Airbnbs now should be registered and should have the CCTV, so that in the event that the way you just go to a hotel, you give your registration, your ID, and you register, and they officially register you as one of their clients.
Okay.
That should also be extended to the B&Bs and also to the taxis, which are also a mode of public transport. We saw that lady in Mombasa, Mudeu, whose
Uber,
life, the
yes.
Uber lady,
Yes.
and it's so sad. She's making a living, for Christ's sake, and then she just, her life comes to just an end.
Okay.
But if this system was in place, there's surety that all these Ubers, all these taxis should have the
Security
camera for
measures.
security,
Yeah.
then it's a plus. It's able to reduce some of these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alberta, because we're pressed for time, maybe you'll have the last word. 16 days of activism have been, observed year in, year out. Perhaps from where you sit, and for you, because you deal with victims, you deal with these cases, what do you think is that silver bullet that we need in 2 minutes?
Wow. Wow. Okay. So the silver bullet will be having the resources.
Yeah.
The resources that are utilized properly and addressing the same. Yesterday, we were launching the 16 Days of Activism in Makueni. We were hosted by the DG, Lucy. And the theme of the year was Unite to end gender-based violence in women and girls. Of course, it had many other bullets in the investment, the femicide cases, and everything else. There have been great progress. The Generational Equality Forum commitments being one of them, the 12 of them into the 4 bullets. All these polycares you're talking about, the gender-based violence recovery centers, GVRC, the shelters are one under the service provision. So the system is there. So if we have, and as PS Rono mentioned yesterday, if we had everyone doing their part, because if you look at the community, there's Nyumba Kumi, there's community policing, there are the polycares that they're doing a good work with support from even the Embassy of Denmark in Kenya. We are doing a forensic room for them, in Laikipia and all that. So all these people are there. If it's the courts, there are 14 sexual gender-based violence courts. If it's the women speaking, there are over 28 women reps talking about femicide cases in Kisii last week. So all these things are there. So the idea is then educating that community to be able to understand, those individuals to understand, getting the community to have a collective action. If we all just say there's no violence, and it's not even about women and girls, there's no violating another human being. It's a human rights issue. Let's not even make it a woman's issue.
Okay.
Yeah? It's basically a human rights issue. If we had all these convictions, and making it smooth even for the end-to-end for the survivor of gender-based violence and their families, people will take action. If we made the places safe, as you say, you jog at night or walk at night, we're unable even to do that, even during the day in some places, then everything would work.
Okay. And so everyone has a role to play.
Yes.
We're playing ours by, creating awareness. So those who are home they need to educate each other. And, you know, that's how we will tackle this issue.
And speak it out.
And speak it out. And eliminate stigma.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies. Nominated Senator Tabitha Mutinda and, of course, Alberta Wambo is the Executive Director, Gender Violence Recovery Center. And this conversation just doesn't end today. Remember, those 16 days will be observed, and even after, we need to raise awareness when it comes to gender-based violence, not only to women, but to men as well.